Hi, I'm Rob McGaughey, Channel Sales Manager with Avid. I'm here today at Sweetwater to take a look at Pro Tools 11. Pro Tools 11 features a brand new 64-bit architecture that impacts every aspect of the program, with a whole new Avid audio engine, as well as features like offline bounce, expanded metering options, a new Avid video engine, as well as a ton of other new features that I think you're going to find cool and exciting. So let's sit down and take a look at Pro Tools 11. For the purpose of this demonstration, I've brought in an Avid HDX system. Actually, I have an HDX card in a Thunderbolt expansion chassis connected to a MacBook Pro with 16 gigabytes of RAM and an external Thunderbolt drive. I also have an Avid HD Omni interface, and I have an 11 rack because, well, that's just always in my rack. So let's take a look at how the new Avid audio engine impacts session performance with Pro Tools 11. You'll see I have a session open here that has 90 voices, as well as 24 virtual instruments, including several things that come stock with Pro Tools, like expand and vacuum. There's also 4 superior drummers. This session wouldn't even load in Pro Tools 10 as it requires far too much RAM. As you'll see when we start to play here, it's barely moving the needle in Pro Tools 11. So let's take a look at a new feature called dynamic plug-in processing. I'm going to go open the playback engine, and you'll see, it looks a lot different, and there's a checkbox here called dynamic plug-in processing. And this is checked, and that's going to turn on a feature that will allow me to utilize my CPU more efficiently. So basically, as different tracks need CPU power to play back the track or plugins associated with the track, it will grab the power. But when those tracks aren't playing, it will give them back so you can use them with other tracks. So this basically makes the system a lot more efficient and a lot more powerful. So to demonstrate this point, I'm going to take the lead vocal track here, and let's just bus it out. We're going to send here to a reverb. So let's go out here, we'll create a bus, and I'm going to go out here, we'll take bus 11 and 12, and we'll send this to a reverb. So let's create a new stereo aux track, and we will insert a reverb plugin. Let's choose the native version of Revibe. Okay, and then let's get the input for that track from bus 11 and 12 that I bussed off of the lead vocal a moment ago. Let's take the level and pull this down here because that's a extra reverb here. So let's pull that way down here. And then let's just duplicate that track. So just to make the needle move, let's add 25 of these. So now I'll have a total of 26 revibes playing once the vocal kicks in. Okay, so now we'll flip over to the edit window. And what I'm going to do is, as I play back the track, it's going to play back at the beginning, and you'll have the music come in. And then when the vocal kicks in out here, you'll see the CPU meter over here. It'll start off in the 20s, and then as the vocal comes in, you'll see that meter spike here to play back those 26 revibes. So let's just play the track here and just watch and listen. You see how the meter jumped up into the 70s when the vocal came in? So it was a big jump as it had to play back all of those revibes. So that's a good example of dynamic plug-in processing and how Pro Tools 11 can use your CPU more efficiently based on what's going on inside your session. Okay, here's another good example of how efficient the Avid audio engine is. I've loaded up the Mini Grand. This is the stock Pro Tools piano that's been around for the past few versions. And so I loaded up one of these, and then I duplicated it 127 times. If I scroll out here to the end, you see 127 duplicates for a total of 128 Mini Grands. I'll switch over here to the edit window, and what you'll see is I'm actually going to start playing a bar before. And I've got, you see the MIDI data here, and I've just basically built up an arpeggio around a C chord to kind of add notes of polyphony as we play through this file. So when I start at the beginning, you'll see the CPU meter low. But then once it starts to play notes of polyphony, it will basically, you'll see the CPU meter go up until the end. It actually plays 24 notes of polyphony all at once, and then it actually will go on beyond that. So you'll see the meter come back down. So it kind of goes through, and you'll see the meter move as it uses the polyphony again, times 128 pianos. Well, let's play the file and watch. So wow, you watch the meter go up, it went right up to 100%. Amazing, isn't it? So another new feature in Pro Tools 11 is offline bounce. Basically, this is the ability to print a track faster than real time. So an example here is I have Expand. You see I've colored this track sort of a reddish hue, and I have Expand 2 playing a little string pad here. And I've bussed this off to an internal bus called just called strings, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this track, and I can choose an option here called Bounce Strings. And if I select that, it'll open up a dialog box. In this dialog box, I can say, okay, what do I want to bounce? Okay, I'm going to bounce strings. And then you've got your normal stuff you see in the Bounce to Disk window for the file type and bit depth and sample rate. And then I'm going to check down here at the bottom a checkbox called Offline, which is the faster than real-time or offline bounce. There's also a checkbox for Import After Bounce, where I can import that track back into my session after it completes the bounce. There's also an option up here at the top for adding an MP3. So while it bounces the 24-bit 44 WAV file, it also could bounce an MP3 if you wanted to have an MP reference of maybe a mix or something. I'm not going to do that right now. Let's go ahead and choose this. And what I have is I have a little string pad. The song's about 4 minutes long. I'm going to print this file for the length of the song. It pops up the window here. You see it's running 60 or 70 times real time. Bam, 4-minute song is done. Now it says, what do you want to do with it? Let's bring it in as a new track. And then I can actually put it at the session start or spot, or what I really want to do is the selection, because I've actually selected where I want it to go. I'll click OK. Let's go ahead and close this window right here. Close this as well. Let's just flip over to the edit window, and you'll see right here at the bottom is the track that I just printed. There's my string pad. And actually, if I select this thing, you can see that this track, if I switch over to my minutes and seconds, is 4 minutes and 16 seconds long, but only took a fraction of that to bounce it. So there's other ways to utilize this feature as well. I can use the Bounce to Disk command. Command Option B here to open the Bounce to Disk window. And actually, I can bounce multiple sources at the same time. This is an HD-only feature. So with Pro Tools 11, just regular Pro Tools 11, you can bounce a single source at one time. But if you have Pro Tools HD, you can actually bounce multiple. So if I click the plus, I can choose different buses that I want to have. So in this particular session, I have a little beat subgroup, this little velo thing right here. Actually, what do I have here? A couple other VIs that I want to. There's a theremin. Let's go ahead and do that. And there's a piano. Yep, there it brought up piano. And should be one more. Yeah, effects. Okay. So if I bus all of these, I want to do the same thing. Offline bounce. I'm going to import them all afterwards. And I'm going to go ahead and bus all 5 of these VI tracks. In these 5 VI tracks, this actually comprises a total of 24 different VIs playing back at one time. We'll go ahead and click Bounce. Brings up the window. See, it's still running multiple times real time. 6, 7 times real time. And it's going to bounce my 4-minute and 16-second song in a fraction of the time that it would normally take. And again, this is bouncing all 5 stems, or bouncing the 24 VIs into 5 stems as that I have them bust in the session. So we'll let this complete, and then it will import those tracks into the session here as well, right below the one that's there. Okay, well, I actually have to tell it to import it. Where do I want it to go? Say, new track, import, and there are the different stems that I imported. Faster than real-time offline bounce. Okay, so another new feature in Pro Tools HD software is expanded metering. So this is only for Pro Tools HD, but we've added 17 new meter types to Pro Tools HD. So if I right-click on my meters, you can actually see all of the different choices here, from the classic Pro Tools meters to a variety of different metering types that are available, including the K-series meters, which are a great way to see headroom. If I scroll down here a little bit, you'll also see that there are venue meters. So for venue console owners, you'll be able to access or see the same metering that you see on your venue console. So you give a lot of different choices that allow you to mix with confidence based on this, lot more information coming back in your metering. You'll also notice that there's gain reduction meters. So again, if I were to right-click here and I scroll down to the bottom, I see my gain reduction meter type. And here I can set it up to view either compressor limiter plugins on that channel, expander gates, or I can give priority to the compressor limiter or the expander gate, or I can just sum them all together. So again, however I want to view gain reduction, I can set that up. So if I look at this particular channel right here, I have a Pro Expander. And you'll see up here at the top, in the plugin window, there's also a little mini meter in the insert chiclet itself. So here I can see the expander gate opening and closing. If I go over here to the vocal track, you'll see some gain reduction or on the compressor working in the Avid channel strip. So you can see that little meter working as well. There's also mini meters in the sends. So remember that bus 13 we set up earlier to show off all those revibes? You can see that mini meter here as well. And that's just a reflection of what's going on in the big meter, but I don't have to open it up to see that something's going on inside it. Also, if I hold down the Command, Option, and Control keys and click on the meters, I can go between the thin meters and the fat or wider ones. I like the wide ones, so I'm gonna leave it like that. But anyway, you really have a lot more options in terms of your metering types. Now, if you have just regular Pro Tools 11, you'll have the classic Pro Tools meters, plus you'll have the venue meters, but you won't have the other choices unless you have Pro Tools HD software. Okay, so let's go into the preferences and take a look. You actually see a tab called Metering. And here you can select your track meters. So here you can choose for my tracks, how do I want them to look. So let's set PPM digital so it'll look like a System 5 console. And then for the master meters, I can have a separate meter type. I'll choose K14 and do the Bobcat's K-series metering. And then I can also, to the right here, I can set up how the ballistics work. So for K14, I can say how much do I want it to decay in decibels over what period of time. And you have different metering ballistics. So if I want to look at my PPM digital, I can set those up as well. So I can basically dial in to get the meters to look and respond the way that I want them to. And you'll see down here are the gain reduction metering types, and basically where you can turn on and off the little displays in the sends and inserts, as well as the track gain reduction metering as well. So I'll click OK. There's also another feature around metering where if I go down to the Show Hide section, I can actually turn off meters and faders. So if I wanted to, I could actually just eliminate all the meters and faders entirely. So if I'm working on a control surface, maybe I don't need to see meters and faders because it's on the surface, and I want to use the screen real estate for something else. I can just turn them off. It's just a preference. So that's the new expanded metering types in Pro Tools 11. So in addition to being able to turn off the track meters, Pro Tools 11 allows you the ability to customize the way you view sends. So for example, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to turn on sends A through E and F through J. I've got all 10 of those on. And then in my view screen, I can actually go to a thing called expanded sends. And I can expand, let's say send A. We've been able to do this in the past where on A through E, you could expand one of the send types, and you could do the same thing on F through J, but you could only have one from the top group and one from the lower group. That was your only choice. But now I could go in and say, I want to expand A, and I want to expand C, and I want to expand D, and let's expand F. So maybe I want to build a little matrix mixer or something like that for my Q mix while I'm tracking. And I'd like to expand that out so I can see what's going on in all of these different sends or be able to adjust them quickly on the fly and have the little, little faders up here and do that. So now I can pick and choose which sends that I want to expand, and it doesn't matter. I could have all 10 of them expanded if I wanted to. Especially if I'm working on a console where I don't need the meters and faders on, I can now fit this view inside my regular Pro Tools screen. It's another cool feature in Pro Tools 11. So Pro Tools 11 also brings a whole host of new workflow enhancements. Little things that'll just make your day a little easier, make things move a little faster. One of them is a new way to create new tracks. So what I can do is if I hold down the Command key and just double click below the mix window, you see I created a new audio track over here to the right. I can also click off to the right. Let's say I hold, instead of the command key, maybe I hold down the option key, double click, now it creates an instrument track. Or if I were to double click a control key, that's an aux input. If I open up my little track hide section here, I can also do it over here. So let's hold down the shift key, we'll double click, and it'll add a master fader out here to the right again. So this is a quick way that I can do if my hands are on the keyboard and mouse to create new tracks. Another new enhancement is the ability to bypass all sends in one click. So if I hold down the shift key and I hold Q, I can actually bypass all of the sends in my session in one jump. If I wanted to, I could actually bypass just all A through E, so that's shift 3, or with shift 4, I can bypass F through J. So this gives me some different options to bypass sends across the entire session all at once. So the same thing applies to inserts. So now if I wanted to, I can hold down Shift and A and bypass all of the inserts inside of my session all at once. I hit it again, turn it back on. I can also bypass not all on and all off, but by plugin type. So for example, what if I wanted to bypass just the EQs in my session? Now if I hold down Shift and E, you'll see that across my mix window, only the EQs are bypassed. And if you look very closely, you'll see that some of them are purple. I mean, normally blue denotes a bypass plugin, but now we have purple. What purple is in this case the Avid channel strip. The EQ portion is bypassed, but the dynamics is still live. So the purple tells us that portion of it is bypassed, but not the entire plugin. So that allows us to quickly see what's going on within our mix. There's also the ability to bypass plugins by other types. There's a bypass for reverbs, modulation, delays, dynamics, and EQ we've shown. Well, sometimes you may want to bypass not by plugin type, but somewhere in the signal path. So for example, let's go back and turn on these EQs. We'll do Shift E, and let's take a look at this track right here. We have vacuum of VI, followed by a host of plugins after it. What if I wanted to hear just the output of vacuum and none of the additional processing? If I hold down the Control key and click on the expander right after it, it bypasses all of the plugins after that in one click. Click it again, turn them back on. Maybe I want to bypass at a different point in the signal. Control click, and that allows me on that channel strip to bypass everything after that in that signal path. So it's a really cool way to be able to get inside your session and hear the impact of different plugins, again, by type or in the signal path, or just turning off sends and things like that. So it's a new cool workflow enhancement that's part of Pro Tools 11. Another aspect of Pro Tools 11 is the way we manage latency. So for example, what if I wanted to record an overdub on this vocal track? I've got this session playing back, there's a bunch of plugins on it, I just want to go in and record a vocal. So if I were to record enable this track, the system will automatically balance the latency buffers in the background so that this track plays back and it's in time. I don't have any delay in my headphones, and appropriates the appropriate buffer for other tracks so they can all play back in time but have that low latency tracking ability. Additionally, we have the ability to write automation while recording. So I'll go here and turn on auto write mode. Then let's record arm the transport. Let's just go ahead and roll it. So now I can write automation while recording on this track. So I have the low latency monitoring we talked about before. I can write automation, and there's several cool workflows for this. You know, the old school way is sometimes guys would like to ride the fader while they're tracking a vocalist, and they had a feel for what they were doing. They'd ride the fader. Now that can be written as automation. Or maybe you're doing a live recording. Maybe you've got a multi-track recording, and you'd like to have all of those faders in record automation, so you could write that automation and work on the mix as you're recording to speed up the mix down later. And I'm sure you may find other aspects for this feature as well. Another aspect of Pro Tools 11 is the addition of the Avid video engine. This gives us the ability to play high-definition video files like Avid DNX HD, QuickTime, and XDCam straight from the timeline without any need for transcoding. We'll also have QuickTime playback via Avid Media Access. It works on both Mac and PC systems. It gives us the ability to output to peripherals and to your desktop simultaneously, as well as seamless looping. You'll see a variety of different frame rate options, video display options, and playback quality options. We'll also have support for a variety of different hardware peripherals, including Avid's Nitrous DX and Mojo DX, Aja's Kona family, IO Express, and IO XD, as well as all the current products from Blackmagic Designs. We'll also have support for a wide array of codecs, all from right within Pro Tools. Well, hopefully this has been fun and informative. We weren't able to look at all the new features in Pro Tools 11, but we hit many of the highlights, and we're able to dig in and see how these things may impact your workflows. If you have further questions, I encourage you to call your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'll be able to answer your questions and help you figure out your best path for upgrading. Again, thanks for watching.